Hello, everybody, but I will speak in Lithuanian for one reason. The non-alcoholic cheese doesn't sound that well in English as it sounds in Lithuanian. Tai mano tema kiek netikėta, tai yra nealkoholic.
So the topic of my presentation is quite an intriguing one. Alcohol-free cottage cheese. Have you ever heard of it? Well, it may sound ridiculous, but allow me to say how I come up with this title. When I was preparing my talk, I was thinking what I would like to talk about. I wanted to talk about fanatism in sustainability, fanatism related to Green Deal, and to anything that is really trendy nowadays. But I couldn't find a way how to approach the topic. And then all of a sudden I went to a performance at a Kaunas Drama Theatre by director Varnas, and that was a card file cabinet. And that is an absurd performance. And there was one stage. There are many actors going around this stage, and they were doing some sort of a nonsense. They were talking gibberish, some sort of illogical words, illogical event. And one of such was alcohol-free cheese. And it somehow very well resonated with the modern day absurdity that we are facing. And sometimes an illogical name can, in fact, could become a very successful marketing term. And then I decided to develop a packaging, how it could look like alcohol-free cheese, 0%. We would have to indicate, and then we decided to have some visual elements, and we were thinking about our campaign for this product. And I was, by the way, I'm not a very bad marketer myself. I think I could even make it an interesting thing, and people would buy it, not because it is alcohol-free cheese, but because people would be intrigued by the very title. And I think nowadays, whenever it's green, we need to have a green label. And for that reason, we decided to be no exception to the rule. That is a green label that we come up with. Just to give you a hint that that is something very special, very healthy. Our cheese is good for vegans because our cows are vegan. They are on a vegan diet. And of course, you can come across many absurd theories to prove your point. The Green Deal is directed at the green color, and for that reason, our campaign for alcohol-free cheese should, of course, be made by our basketball team, Žalgiris, and we can put all the emotions related to our basketball. And there were some stupid ideas and good ideas before and after. These were kind of funny ideas. And this is very much a good reflection of marketing of products that we see on TikTok, on Instagram, in the mass media, on television. There are loads of bullshit everywhere. Sometimes we don't even come to think of it. That, and I believe that there would still be some consumer for alcohol-free cheese, and for that reason, I also discovered one link with the alcohol-free cheese. There are so many nuisances in the marketing place, and one of such, well, the ones who know, who have kids of your own, you know this nonsense story with Prime. It has been well recognized that it is no good for children, but by the way, it has become so popular that including my kids bought it, and there were 6 to 7 euros per one bottle, and that could just as easily be alcohol-free cheese. It only had a very good marketing campaign, and somebody has earned a fortune. And I know that then there is the shelves are being basically cleaned. They're emptied at an instant. We also have Diet Coke. Everybody knows that it can no be called Diet Coke, and you can get just as many calories by eating 2 burgers. And all of a sudden, we have alcohol-free cheese these days. Why all of a sudden we in the world of consumers we get lost among these messages and we buy alcohol-free cheese by way of not thinking that it contains nothing? And this banana, nobody is going to persuade me that this is a piece of art, especially after a week's time. Then I think it is going to be more interesting. And I remember one more typical example of the so-called alcohol-free cheese. This is a car. That was indeed some sort of a misunderstanding. Yet another version of alcohol-free cheese. And at this point, I finish off with my introduction, and I'm going to use this logo or this idea of cottage alcohol-free cheese. That is the last photo of alcohol-free cheese. We could just as well use it as a campaign. Now moving on to the field of religion. How does it come that all of a sudden I can start talking about religion? Because many things nowadays have become a sort of a religion or a cult, we may put it, such as sustainability cult or environmental cult, DI, AI religion or cult, and we do not even haven't noticed that these are no longer ideas, but they are showing the signs of religious fanatism. And what is religion? Is a thing that people believe in without questioning it. So what is our religion? That is indeed a big deception. We, being the adults, we still believe that somewhere up in the cloud there is a bearded man sitting up in the in the clouds, and we all believe that there are 10 tenets that we are supposed to follow, and if we're not going to do that, we're going to perish in hell, and then we're going to be, tortured by all those demons. But either way, this God loves us, and that would be, a funny way of describing what a religion is. Belief nowadays is becoming something different. The more the religion takes space in our brains, the higher fanatism we can discover. Then the person immediately stops questioning the certain premises. And as soon as we stop questioning ourselves, I think all of us have a certain religion that we sincerely believe in, let's say in self-driven cars or whatever. And then our world no longer is a very versatile thing. It's a very flat one. Anybody who is not with us is against us. Every single car driver is an enemy with a diesel car driver. Well, it doesn't necessarily work the other way around, but e-car driver, this is how they look at us, look down upon us as their enemies because we're still driving diesel cars. Every single religion has its beginnings, it has a good idea, nicely looking idea, and then as time goes by, religion becomes a fanatism. When it happens, there are not very nice things coming up. Then we have this misconception of the world, and then we no longer realize how different ideas or processes can coexist along each other. And this is how we come to fanatism. And I immediately thought of one face when I talked about fanatism, and I think you would also going to think about this person. This is Greta Thunberg. An idea which was which really looked nice some time ago, and now it has become a religious fanatism. An example. And by the way, don't be too judgmental. Because I'm all for the Green Deal, for the sustainability, and for the preservation of our planet Earth, and against global warming. But all the times, I always try to find to distance myself from fanatic ideas. So Greta Thunberg was the pioneer launching this campaign anti-globalism, and which then followed with a huge global summits, to which all the global leaders came with their private jets to adopt decisions on how to save planet Earth. And in doing so, we would be contributing rather than preventing the global warming. And this is how those good and nice ideas had a certain set of side effects that would be against the idea. There is yet another economy which is even more contributing to the European environmental pollution, those summits, those bureaucratic apparatuses. both in be it Brussels, America, or elsewhere. There are new there are new jobs, new institutions. There is a higher contribution to budgetary contributions. Then we need to build new buildings. We need to build the necessary infrastructure, electricity, heating, etc. And this is why this idea is no longer a very clean one or a very nice one anymore. It develops businesses all around it, and this is how we developed yet another religion. I don't know even anymore what sustainability means. It is the word that has been devalued so much. It has so many interpretations and speculations. What it means that for me, sustainability is no longer the thing that I truly believe in. Every single business now is expected to label themselves as sustainable businesses. They no longer do it. Why they do it? Uh, and then we have this the report, ESG report. Well, to me as a business, what does it mean? These are additional resources, so we can get something out of these initiatives. So what do we get from this? That how good we are, how we are saving on emissions, how we are incentivizing our staff. And I still feel or fear that it is going to be just a declaration, a pure declaration, starting from large businesses, and then the entire pyramid goes back to the smaller businesses, to the farm level, which will also be expected to follow suit. And in addition to that, given that we, being the large corporates, will no longer be able to do that, there will be businesses who will be able to do that. We will develop new economy and new businesses which are meant to serve the businesses which were going to teach us how to fill in an ESG reports, but without teaching us how to introduce change. And then we will have institutions, yet another bureaucratic body, which will also be analyzing our ESG reports in order to verify. And again, I truly disbelieve in the efficiency. So I think that we can expect yet another alcohol-free cheese. I recycle. My family members recycle, and I believe that the majority of people in Lithuania recycle. But at the same time, we are forced to accept labor migrants from Asia, from Africa, who work as truck drivers. And I can give a very simple illustration. On my way from Vilnius to Kaunas, in one of the bypass, there are loads of plastic bottles which have been recycled by our East Asian guests. What I mean to say, they have become, containers for urine, because this is how the truck drivers behave. And then there is indeed an eyesore, this particular corner on a motorway. We can find a similar example in Italy, where I go every year. All the roads are polluted by loads of trash. And these are not the local Italians who would behave like this, but these are immigrants. I'm not against the migrants per se, but we're not integrating them. We are accepting them into a country, into the green, into sustainable European Union, which we are trying to keep clean, whereas what they do, they keep on building more trash. Our mission is before we educate something, we need to educate third country nationals so that we do not have a time bomb, so that our fight against climate change is not pre-programmed to fail. In 2024, in August, at that time, I had some visiting couple from United States who were really enjoying the cleanliness. They could never see such a clean city as Kaunas, Vilnius. Everything looked so beautiful, no trash. For them, it was the most beautiful city in Europe that they have visited, whereas in New York,
official trash bin.
Two types of Americans, those who live in New York and those who wish they could.
Sporting the trash bin with their shades. I see you, Mayor.
How about that?
With music blasting in the background, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, along with the Sanitation Commissioner, unveiled the new trash and recycling bins this morning. The city says the containers will keep city streets cleaner and will cut the rat population. So
Hebra 24 metų rugpjūtį New Yorkas pristato pirmąją
So can you imagine in 2024 August there was the first public trash bin and which was launched as something wow innovation. In the past, people would be simply drop the trash on the streets, on the pavements. So we in the here in the EU, we believe that we with the Green Deal are somewhat lagging behind, whereas our big partners across the pond have only now discovered trash bins. And this greenwashing is not only some sort of an US invention. Sometimes it is born out of good intentions. For instance, businesses believe that the Green Deal is the source of income for many of them. And some of the factories, they have become greener, but, well, more or less, they have just painted the exhume chimneys in green color. And these global challenges, when it comes to these global challenges, our generation is not the first one to raise these questions. We were not yet born, even, and whale fat used to be the key energy resource. And then all of a sudden, somebody came with an idea that we're going to abuse whales. A day is going to dawn when there will be no whale fat. And then there was an initiative to stop killing waves and no longer use them as a fat source. And then there was those fossil fuels. And then in the 70s, there is another trend of if we were going to use fossil fuel in 10 years' time, we're going to run out of fossil fuel. In the 80s, I'm trying to remember what happened in the 80s. There was a new focus. There was a new ice age coming, and the old ice was going to melt, or some acid rain. Acid rain was to destroy crops, and we would be indeed there will be an ozone hole, and we are going to have global warming. So this is another mantra, and every single generation invents something, and we need to repeat it once again. But none of these devastating forecast has ever happened. I remember back in my school years, somewhat in the mid 90s, I believe that we were not to have any fossil fuel by 2024, and nobody's saying this. Nobody is talking about what we could do better with the fossil fuel. In Europe, by the way, we reinvented the diesel engine tractors that it is now emitting 1,000 times fewer solid particles. But until we discover a new alternative, we can only work by way of making our exhaust pollution more efficient. And then 15 kilometers from our border, there is Belarus, where crude oil is burnt in thousands of tons, and then all the waste water is released into our rivers. And all these initiatives that we have in Europe may sound like alcohol-free cheese, but we're not going to achieve a lot out of this until the rest of the world follows suit. At the very same time, how does agriculture in Lithuania look like? It needs to be subsidized, especially if we're talking about organic farming. There are numerous restrictions. You need to follow the precision farming requirements. There are some regulations coming from Brussels, which we have to respect. And we no longer sow products, but a product foiled in money, which is already, by its very nature, is non-efficient. And we still speak too little of this. And out of this conflict, there is another topic. There is this tension within societies, and this is how what we have in Vilnius. And it is not happens because farmers are very much against the Green Deal or organic farming or global warming, but farmers have to look for the ways how to maintain themselves. And the ones who are confronting, the ones who are milking their cows, This is just an illustration, not a very precise one. This is how we understand what vegans do. They milk an almond in order to get milk. Um, so sometimes there is indeed a huge gap between logic and reason. In London last year, vegans held a demonstration. They were demonstrating against cow milk, and they poured almond milk on the parliamentary doors. And there was a parliamentary speaker, and she gave an interview.
Asking the government.
Do you eat avocados? Yes?
A leading study from.
Do you? It's an interview. You don't just answer different questions. Do you eat avocados?
I eat a plant-based diet, which
Do
is.
you eat avocados?
Yes.
Yes, you do. Great. Do you know how avocados and almonds get made?
Absolutely.
You do.
Yes.
So you realise that in California, every year, for 6 weeks, they fly in billions of bees to create your almonds and avocados. And in that process, several billion bees get murdered. This is a bee. Right? That's a bee. That, last time I checked, is a living animal. Billions get slaughtered so that you, sitting here, pontificating in between smashing up our buildings, so that you can have your almonds and your avocado. And I say to you, why don't you care about the little guys?
Ir čia paradoksas tame, kad
And by the way, in Florida, requires loads of bees in order to pollinate avocados. And simply the bee families are brought into avocado fields in order to pollinate avocado trees. I'm not a beekeeper myself. Well, the interview was about avocado and almonds. So why do we use avocado? In order to produce one piece of avocado, it's, by the way, the most water-intensive plant. It's 60 liters. And those beehives are, they do not have any single blossom apart from avocado blossoms. And in order to produce a whole generation of bees need a variety of pollen. And this is how bees are used until they're used for this harvest of avocados, and there are new beehives are being brought to do the same. So vegans are protesting against cow bees, and they're still protesting against cow milk. So there are two sides of the story. The world is indeed a huge place, and there are many interlinks inside. So I no longer believe in every single green label. They are more or less declarations. 1% for a planet, well, is it really so? Bio, eco, it's only a trend. It's only a commercial trick. There is no organic or any nature friendliness. Going back to Tesla's example, well, it may look nicely. These are e-cars. They produce no exude fumes or particles in the streets, whereas all the components, including all the batteries, are produced by Musk in China, in which there are nuclear powers in full blast or fossil fuel plants, and they're polluting the most the world. And this mega pollution then dissipates in the entire world. And in that why Tesla is no longer such a holy cow eventually. And this is no surprise that these are the countries which are destroying all our work in making our planet a greener world. Where if we're not going to invest into education of third countries so that they are on the same side of the barricade, then our war is just an empty effort. And to finish off my talk, yet another example of alcohol-free cheese. This is a biogas tractor. How easy it is to bring an idea and to sell it to investors in Vilnius and in Europe, that it could be as if a game changer. So for a layman, it may be a game changer, but for a is nothing that a cereal producer have long been producing biogas-fueled tractors who are meant for circular economy farms. And it is no longer a game changer. It is just an attempt to earn from the general trend because we are all expecting for the change. So to finish off, we also developed a tractor, not for that purpose, but just as a joke. That if you indeed develop a grid, you can even sell a tractor which would be fired on sauerkraut energy, and of course that's a joke. It's no serious stuff. This tractor was meant for Red Bull car race, where our team became a winner. So yet another example of an alcohol-free cheese, which is a label in my head that I stick to, where I have some disbelief whether it is really the case. No bullshit. Thank you.
Pabūkit truputį dabar, Gediminai, kadangi jūs taip.
Yes, could you please stay on the stage for a couple of minutes? You sounded rather skeptical. Let me be skeptical as well. So what? Nothing. Just I want to encourage critical thinking. But do you encourage anyone to create? Well, you're saying we need to educate the third world. We need to teach, for example, China, which is growing 3 times faster than we do. And if we don't do anything, we will achieve nothing. So does it mean we shouldn't do anything? Yeah, well, you have to be reasonable with your religions. You don't have to be fanatic. You can't be fanatic. And what fanatism is? Well, my example with almond milk. When you are fighting or demonstrating against cow milk, you are not solving any problem at all. What about this positive fanatism? Because if nobody was fighting for the rights of the black people, then they would still not be allowed to drive buses. Well, fanatism is when you believe that we have to accept the migrants which are pushed from the Belarus. We needed to solve the problem before they get to Lithuania. Well, you're saying that we are forced to accept the migrants, but Mindaugas Janulevičius, he said that we have too many quotas, we have too many restrictions, and we need labor force. Yes, we do, but we need to teach that migrant to behave like we behave. But we are not perfect in our behavior either. This is also important, isn't it? Well, yes, it is, says the speaker. Now, well, you say nothing has sense, right? You say we will achieve nothing unless we have the rest of the world on board. So what do we do? What can we do? So let's do the work that we are doing. But let's have in mind that we will not achieve an ultimate goal. We can be very nice and puffy, but the world will not change because of that. Okay. So what about this perspective? Sometimes it is rather healthy and sobering to hear a perspective like this. But and anyone else has any thoughts on that? Okay, well, just my last remarks. Aren't you a sustainability hater? Are you? So, okay, what do you do? Well, as a citizen, not a businessman, but as a citizen, what practices you have introduced into your daily life in order to reduce the incidence of cloudbursts and other natural disasters? Well, I can't influence cloudbursts or anything like that, but I use geothermal heating to heat my house. But let's go back to geothermal system. It is not. It is basically a luxury item. Not everybody can afford it. So, sustainability is expensive. Okay, we need a microphone for the speaker so that everyone could hear and so that interpreters could interpret. Right, I would like to share a story. We are a company and we are fermenting secondary material. Basically, we found an outlet, a sales outlet that would be suitable for our purposes, and they claim that they are perhaps the most sustainable. Meanwhile, we are using secondary raw material for production of our products, and we're looking for synergies, and perhaps I may offer this product for you. On our website, in our website, we couldn't basically upload a picture that would represent our product. And the potential sales outlet said that they are not going to cooperate with us because our packaging is not sustainable. And it was an example of the fanatism that you were talking about. Basically, we were recycling and upcycling a product which otherwise be thrown away and landfilled. But they were not happy with the packaging. So I think they were throwing away baby together with the bathwater. Yes, and in legislation, in regulations, we have a lot of nonsensical provisions. It turns out that there is a regulation that prohibits selling used children or second-hand children boots or shoes. So, and your example that you have just shared is something that something similar. And indeed, we perhaps lack, there is a lack of tools that would help us to identify whitewashing practices and encourage us to do something about it. So thank you very much for your ideas. I think we found some common points of understanding, and a big round of applause for you.